Hey everybody, it's Mr. Bierbauer. This week we're going to be learning about another element of art and we're going to focus on space. We're just going to need paper, pencil, and then whichever color and materials you guys have. So we're going to start with our artist promise. As artists, we will always try our best, respect ourselves, our friends, and our artwork, take responsibility, imagine new things, support each other, and take time to clean up. Our I can statement today is I can create a landscape drawing that demonstrates space. Now, if you look at this, you might be wondering, where is the space? I thought space was planets. I thought there's stars and moons and everything like that. And that is one kind of space. That's not what we're focusing on this week. We're actually going to be focusing on the element of art called space. And that's this last one right here. Basically, space is the area that you see in an artwork. It can show distance or depth. In a flat artwork, artists have to trick our eyes to make a feeling of space. So if you look over this picture, Christina's World, you can see Christina is really close to us and the houses are very far away. So that has a sense of space in it. The space is the distance from what we're seeing right up close to all the way far away. So, what are some ways you can think of that an artist might be able to make things look close or far away? Think for a minute, and then I will keep on going so we can see. So hopefully you all got a chance to watch my Sesame Street video that I linked before class. Just because I think it's really helpful for thinking about how things are near and far. I know some of us might feel like we're a little bit too old for Sesame Street, but guys, Sesame Street has a lot of really good things in it that are still fun to watch today. So when he was near, we saw he was really big, and when he was far, we saw that he looked really small. But we know Grover is always the same size. So that is a great way that we can show space in our artwork. So really quickly, we're going to look at the spaces in a landscape. Usually a landscape is split up into three types of areas. The area that's closest to us is the foreground. It's before everything else. And usually things in the foreground are darker colors, bigger shapes, more details. And then the middle ground is like the middle distance. Things there are a little bit smaller than the foreground. They're not quite as detailed, and they're lighter colors. And then way in the background, things are small and very light colors and don't have a lot of details. So even though these trees are probably the same size, they look a lot smaller because they're farther away. And one other important thing right here is the horizon line. That is, when we look into the distance, that is the line that we can kind of see where the land and the sky meet each other. So if we didn't have these hills, you would see the sky would go right down to this line. So here's a couple easy tricks to make things look farther away when you're drawing. Things farther away will look smaller. So back here in the background, these trees might really be the same size as this tree, but they look a lot smaller because they're far away. And these trees are probably even farther away because they look smaller. Things that are farther away are higher on the paper too. So these ones are the highest on the paper, so they're farther away than everything else. And they have less details. Like on this tree, you can see branches. You can see the road is up super close, but then as you get farther away, they're smaller, they're higher, and they have fewer details. Here are two landscapes that we can look at really quickly. Let's look at this first one called Hunters in the Snow Winter. This was actually painted in 1565, so over like almost 500 years ago. Which things in here are closer to us? All right, so the trees up here and the dogs and the people, they are definitely the closest. And how do we know? Well, they have the most details and they're bigger. If you look way out here, you can see there's some trees out here too, but they are so tiny because they're far away. Also, as they get farther away, some of them get higher or closer to that horizon line. And then this picture over here is a little bit trickier. It's called Sky Aperture, and it's a picture looking up. What things in this picture are closest to us? Yeah, it's the people and the lights here. But actually, since we're looking up, maybe even these ones up here are close to us. And then as you go farther and farther up, these buildings start out really big and they end up really small. There's some tiny birds up there too, so that's super far away. Okay, so when we're ready to draw our picture, we're looking for a few things to make sure we get them right. We're going to make sure our picture is in 3 sections. So again, this whole bottom section under that first line is the foreground. That's closest to us. The middle ground is the middle section. And then the background is farthest away in the top. We're going to make sure our small objects are in the background. Medium objects, medium sizes, are in the middle ground, and largest are in the foreground closest to us. And then our pictures are going to have details, and we're going to color them. So if everybody just hangs tight, I've got a demonstration coming up to show you how to draw your own landscape and show space, just like this one. All right, everybody. I'm going to show us how to do our landscape drawings where we are going to show a sense of space of things going farther away from us. Today I'm just going to use a pencil, and I've got some colored pencils here, but you guys can use whatever art materials you've got. I'm going to use my paper, and I'm going to turn it vertical, so straight up and down. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to fold it to help me get some guidelines. So I'm going to fold it once across and crease it down, and it doesn't have to be a very hard crease, just enough to see that line. Then I'm going to open it back up, and I'm going to fold it the other way. So after I'm done, it's going to be folded into 4 pieces. And then I'm just going to open it right back up. Now, we're going to start by drawing 2 lines. These are going to split between our foreground, our middle ground, and our background. So the first line is going to be about an inch or so above the middle line. So for me, that's about this much of my thumb. And it's just going to be a straight line across. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight, but as good as you can. And then the next line is going to be that far and a little bit more below that middle line there, that middle fold. So now I have foreground, middle ground, and background. First thing I'm going to do is go in and put some stuff in my middle ground, because that'll be a good way to set how big things need to be. So I'm going to start out by doing a house, and I'm going to make it look a little bit 3D. So to start with, I'm just going to do a rectangle in the middle of this area. It can cross over your fold. I'm going to go up, and I'm going to try to make it a little bit straighter. You can use your other fold going across for a guideline. There we go. Erase that out. All right. And then I'm going to be drawing, I'm going to start by drawing another line parallel or alongside this one. And we're going to try to make sure all of these house lines are straight up and down. And then we're going to make a triangle point on top that's going to cross over our center fold. So and it's going to point to both sections of line. After that, we're going to draw another line straight across, and then another diagonal line. And we want this one to be about the same as that. So now it looks like here's a house, a little bit 3D. Maybe we'll put a little window on the side. Maybe a door on this side. These can be whatever details you want to add. I'm just adding a little bit so we can see how big things are going to be. Now I'm going to do also still in the middle ground, maybe a tree. And this tree is going to be A little bit bigger than the house, kind of like if we looked outside, maybe we would have a big tree outside. And I'm going to keep the top of my tree below that next line. So just a tree, I'm just making it simple with a nice bush kind of shape there. If you wanted to show the branches in front, you could draw some branches in and erase some out. And then that's our middle ground. So we got, this is a good basis. Now everything in the foreground closer to us is going to be bigger than that middle ground. So I'm going to draw a road. I'm going to start it at the middle line. This is going to go down and curve. And then it's going to be a really big looking road because it's the closest thing to us. So see, it's even bigger than the house. If we want to make it a road with like a line in the middle, we can do that. We're just going to make sure we start up at the top and then go down and curve a little bit in the middle. If you want to put something else in front, make sure it stays big too. Maybe a nice really big bush over here. It's close to us, so it looks much bigger than everything else. Now we're going to go up and work in our background. And so things are going to be small back here. This line right here is going to be the horizon line. I'm going to start out, maybe put a nice hill up here, starting on one side and crossing over that vertical line. And then here's another hill, so that way it looks like if we're looking off in the distance, these hills are going to be there. And then we got to think about things we want back there. Maybe if we want to do some trees, they're going to have to be a lot smaller because they're farther away. So maybe we'll do some little trees up here. I'm going to make them kind of go over the top of the hill. See, they almost look like the size of bushes or something compared to that house, but since they're far away, that's why they're smaller. So we could do a couple trees on the hillside. And maybe this hill's even farther away, so it's going to have some even smaller trees on it. Maybe I'll do little pine trees on this side. And remember, as they're farther away, they're going to be less detailed. So you don't have to feel like you have to draw every single little thing on these pine trees or on your other ones because they're far away. We don't see as much. So there's a couple little pine trees. Of course, we can put some big clouds up in the sky because even when clouds are far away, they still look really big because they just are so big. So maybe a couple clouds, and your clouds can be any size or shape you want. Just something to help fill up the space. And then there's our basic drawing. It's really simple, but we have our biggest things in the front and the foreground because they're close to us. And then our middle ground has our middle-sized things because they're the middle distance. And then farthest away, we get small and smaller because those are in the background. So once you've drawn yours, of course, you can feel free to go in and add any details you want. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to switch over to the Speedy camera so you guys can see how this ends up. Okay, and there is my finished picture. You can see I did the most details and the darkest, brightest colors in the front and the foreground closest to us. And then the middle ground, I tried to use medium colors, medium details. And then as I got farther and farther away, I got lighter and lighter. So I hope you guys really enjoyed doing this. Just remember, foreground is closest to us, has the most details, biggest objects. Middle ground is the middle area, It's the middle distance, has middle detail and middle size, and then the background is going to be really far away from us, so everything will be smaller and less detailed and less colorful as you get farther and farther away. So I can't wait to see what you guys come up with and just have fun with it.